Possiamo riprendere. Do il benvenuto a Sara Paiva. Sara, se vuoi, ecco.
Okay, so
Sara, scusa per il ritardo, abbiamo un po' allungato i tempi ma
Okay.
adesso iniziamo subito, ti do subito la parola, ti do il benvenuto, ti ringrazio di essere con noi. E quindi per non perdere,
Thank you.
non
Thank
rubarti
you
altro
also.
tempo,
Thank you, Lu.
ti lascio subito la parola.
Okay. Thank you, Luigi. Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to be in this event. And I will now see if I can share my screen. And Luigi, could you please tell me how long do I have?
Se me la mia pazienza, 50 minuti.
It's 50, right?
Yeah, sì.
Yeah, is that it? It's 15 minutes, Luigi, yes? Okay, I will take, let's see if I don't take that much, but it's 50 that you said, right? I cannot see you now, so that is it, right?
Ok, lo vediamo perfettamente.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to again thank you for the opportunity to join you, and in this next like 40 minutes probably I will talk to you about smart mobility. It is a topic that I have been working in this past few years. And first of all, I am, as you know, my name is Sara Paiva. I am currently working in an institute in Viana do Castelo in Portugal. I'm also developing some work on IEEE, and also namely with the ambassadors program that we are now starting to launch within the IEEE Smart Cities. And I've been collaborating also with some journals and some conferences, also coordinating an internal research center that we have here in our Polytechnic Institute. And we are approximately 20 researchers so far. And the main topics of my research include smart mobility, inclusive mobility for disabled people, outdoor navigation, route optimization, city sustainability, and most of the things I do also require some applied mobile computing. Okay, so in this presentation, I will talk to you about smart mobility. And first, I would like to speak a little about smart cities, because, of course, it is the general concept. And there are some main axes and domains of interventions in the smart city. We can see them here in the right side. Government, mobility, environment, economy, people, living. This is some of the axes and the verticals that we have when we talk about smart cities. I'm going to enter a little deeper on mobility, and in fact, smart cities they arise and then they exist because we combine a lot of things, like we have here on this left side, like advancing technologies that we see emerging every day, and a complete system integration. And then we have big data, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, etc., etc. These are emerging topics, and all of them are allowing for smart cities to become a reality and to be a reality in many cities. So one of the things that we have when we talk about smart cities and focusing on mobility, one of the issues that we know exists is traffic congestion. This is something that is a reality in a lot of cities around the world. And not only traffic congestion is a reality, but also this catches our attention for some things that we, as citizens, we need to be aware of. We know that some of the things that we need to promote are active transports as a way to fight this traffic congestion. Also, we know that it is a fact that we will have to start using more environmental friendly fuels. We need also to promote cities accountability, because this is all we all have to do something regarding some issues that cities are facing. Public access to information is also very important, because some of the systems that we might provide cities, they really demand that system integration is required, and sometimes in some realities, there is some difficulties in getting this information, because communication with some of the stakeholders is not exactly so easy. Another thing that will need to be addressed, it will be real-time travel planning. We're going to speak a little more about this, but people are concerned about getting somewhere fast, and not only we have to consider time, also now, because of COVID, we also have to think about safety, and also we need to have in consideration the efficiency and a less contribution to CO2 emissions. And one of the things, last point here is really to reduce CO2 emissions. So when we're talking about traffic congestion, well, it's really a reality. And from here, we can extrapolate a lot of things that will need to be a concern, and they are already a concern of several cities. Because what we see in this graph is really like in 1974, world population were approximately 4 billion. In 1999, 6 billion, and in 2040, 9 billion is expected. So we're not decreasing, we're increasing number of people. So these problems of traffic congestions, they are really not going to disappear. We just need to really handle it in a different way, and cities need to start focusing on this. So talking about a little about the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, the 23rd Agenda, we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and some of the topics that we have here in this 11th goal that relates to sustainable cities and communities, we can see that some of the things here really relate a lot to mobility. Not only these topics, I just chose two, but mobility, how we get people from one place to another, how we embrace and how we make inclusive mobility to also consider disabled people, elders. So this is a major concern, and globally, okay? So regarding smart mobility, I would like to talk about some principles here, and they are expressed here, like flexibility. This is very important, and this means that citizens should have at their disposal several means of transport, so they can choose in a better, so they can make a decision based on the information they have, because sometimes they might want to be faster to get to the destination. Sometimes time is not so important, but they need to get there, and they want to prioritize safety, because so they should have all the information to make the best decisions. And having several means of transport is very important, not only car, but trains, bicycles, shared driving, etc. Several means of transportation, which are very important in the mass paradigm that we'll discuss in a minute. Another thing is efficiency, and this means getting to the desired destination someone wants without delays. Okay. Another thing is integration, because if we consider various means of transport, we need everything to be integrated so we can make calculus about the best routes. So integration of systems is really fundamental thing to happen in smart mobility. Then we have clean technology, and this means that all of this all of these things about smart mobility and all the delivered solutions should take into accountability the sustainability aspect, and also to go towards the transport with zero emissions. Then we have safety, and safety sometimes relates to ultimately drastic reduction in fatalities, and this we know that we are going towards the autonomous vehicles. This is still a controversy because there are legal aspects with this, and some people have serious concern yet about these autonomous vehicles, but they are really getting here. So but the main purpose of them is, of course, to contribute to this principle of safety. Then we have accessibility as an important principle, saying that well, equality should exist in the services so they are accessible to everyone. And finally, social benefits. So people have to understand that all this information, they should try to perceive very well the benefit that it has for them, all the solutions that are made available. If we talk about services, because smart mobility has a lot of services, and here are just a few. Of course, we have public transportation. This is what we have for quite a long time. And now we have other things that are more or less a reality in some cities more than in others. We have things coming like sharing and short-term rental. This is things like renting transport by the hour, or things such as peer-to-peer car sharing. We can have things like mobility as a service. We discussed it a while ago. And this is a big shift from having a car or having some kind of vehicle to using a vehicle. And here, this assumes that citizens will have access to multimodal transport. And this will ultimately lead to a reduction of fixed costs for individuals, okay? And also, we have here a topic like offering information on the entire route from navigation to the purchase of tickets. So this means that with this paradigm, we will have a route that can have several different means of transportation along the way, but solutions can start from the beginning, from buying a ticket until really getting to the destination. And a lot of things can happen between the origin to the destination. And mobility on demand, it can be, well, mass mobility as a service can be considered the precursor of mobility on demand. And mobility on demand essentially focuses on the transport of people and goods. Here in the mobility on demand, electric mobility plays an important role and is expected to be a central part in this mobility on demand, like it's electrical mobility. Autonomous transport system is also a service within the smart mobility, and we can go from starting from autonomous vehicles. We're going to speak about different levels in a minute. So if we start with autonomous vehicles, then we can start talking about shared autonomous vehicles, then intelligent traffic management systems, and also improved door-to-door or on-demand mobility. So from the moment that we start speaking about autonomous vehicles, we can extrapolate and speak of a lot of other things too. Freight and logistics, this is also an important services to talk about. And we should not forget that the CO2 emissions that are caused by transportation of products is something that we should not forget. And the increase in distribution process will also lead to a greater traffic congestion. So how we make the route optimization for this transportation, this type of transportation, is really something to have in consideration. And finally, something like has to do with drones and low altitude aerial mobility. We're talking about vertical mobility here. And one of the things that have been done already is like the integration with delivery systems, delivering goods to people. Technically, it is already possible to think of drones for passenger transport. I wouldn't say we are there for a lot of reasons. Regulation, one of them, and safety, of course, also will be a concern. But I expect the next years to bring some news and some advances on these topics. Okay, so the trends in mobility is that we are, well, going from a lot of this current situation to the one that is here. So we assist to a transition from light and small, from big cars to light and small cars, also private to shared cars, a transition on the type of fossil fuel too, in this case to electric cars. So a transition in the type of the means used in the car, and then a transition from this traditional to autonomous vehicle. So this is like the trends, the several trends in mobility. Here we have some data. The last one that was made available. This is made available by the European agency, and it has to do with the contribution of CO2 emissions by sector. And we see that the transportation is really a sector that is contributing a lot for the CO2 emissions. So it makes us think. And also, if we narrow it down by transport mode, what we have is like road transportation is 72% of this contribution. Then we have civil aviation, water, etc. And in this road transportation, we can see that cars are 60% of it. So cars on the road is really a major contribution. Then we have also heavy duty trucks and then other types. Okay, so this gives us a quite information about what could be the main concern that we could change. Here we have also the contribution of CO2 emission for different type of vehicle and fuel types. We know that this type of vehicles has the production is a little lower, but then the exhaust emission is very big here, and it's not in this case. So we know that in this type of vehicles, we will have less contribution in the production, well, in some cases, but on the road we have this type of vehicles contributing to a lot of CO2 emissions. Another interesting data here has to do with comes from the Sustainable Development Scenario 2, 2017. Well, this is a prediction, and this has to do with when do we expect that this type of vehicles do no longer contribute to CO2 emissions. So this is a perspective. This is this is the International Energy Agency. So this is like a prediction of when do probably this type of vehicles will stop contributing in a big percentage to the CO2 emissions. Okay, so some decades for us to go yet. Okay, so this is the transition. This is the level of the autonomous vehicles, and we have been from no driving assistant automation from level 0, and we will eventually go to level 5, full driving automation. And in this meantime, we are probably here around level 3. Of course, we have already prototypes for level 4, level 5. They are not implemented yet as a reality, but we have, of course, prototypes in this regard. And what we assist is that the driver will start contributing in a less way as the level of automation grows. So this is a trend that we will assist in the next year. Different aspects can be raised regarding this. We have all seen some tests that are being doing for some companies. We know that some concerns still exist, but we know also this is the way and direction that is being developed, and ultimately to get here, self-driving, and people can completely forget about the car and just be a passenger inside it. This source from McKinsey here, we can see like two scenarios. This is a high disruption scenario, and in this case We assume that everything is going to be fast, people are going to be comprehensive, everything is going to be very good. Okay, this is the high disruption scenario. And we have a low disruption scenario where we can see that, well, some things can occur, like people will not accept this technology so fast. A lot of things will affect the evolution in this low disruption scenario. And considering this, and just look at in 2040, in this low disruption scenario, there might be the possibility that fully autonomous vehicles will exist only in about 5%. Okay, so in a high disruption scenario, we have here a fully autonomous on 90%. So there's a big difference, I would say. There are a lot of uncertainty here. I think we have really a big range of the predictions that are being made on how we are going to be in like 10 or 20 years. There's still some uncertainty on this. So, but of course, the data is what it is, and a lot of scenarios have been made. The Lisbon what if scenario is a study that was made in Lisbon in 2015. And this scenario was built with self-driving shared vehicles, with electric vehicles, 6-seater shared taxis, and also 18 to 16-seater taxi buses. And the topic was that, okay, so let's all use this type of vehicles and let's forget about private vehicles. So the conclusion was that in a shared mobility city, only 10% or less of the number of vehicles were actually needed to take citizens where they want to go. Okay, so if this happens, if we have only 10% of the current vehicles on the cities, we would assist to congestion disappearing, CO2 emissions falling down, and on-street parking space would no longer be needed. Okay, so this was a study in 2015, and these were the main conclusions. I would like to present you with some use cases on smart and inclusive mobility of some projects that we have been making. So one of the projects has to do with start using electrical buses in a city where we live. As you know, as in majority of the cities, we use private cars for everything. So we made some kind of a simulation and some inquiries of the usage of electric buses, because we have them in the city to drive people in the historical center. And the inquiry that we have made, we learned that about 0.5% of the people that we inquired, they were not aware that there were electric buses to transport them. And of those who were aware, 93% did not use them. Why? Because inadequacy of the route, 73%, because they don't take them where they want to go, probably. So this leads us to, and majorly, this has to alert cities, authorities, municipalities for this, okay? And then what we have is 66% use private cars to make their daily transportations, and 95% use fossil fuels. Okay, so this is reality. We made a mobile application to help people use this public transportation. This was a small prototype that we have developed because well, our city is still making its way regarding smart mobility. There are not yet a lot of solutions towards this, so informing citizens is really a necessity. We have these electrical buses in the city. They travel 160 kilometers a day. They carry 22 passengers per ride, and the complete charge of this electric bus contributes with 23,000 to CO2. And then we compared it to, well, a traditional car, which contributes with 27,000. I really can't say the word in English. So to CO2, an average per 160 kilometers. So if we consider this is a daily emission. If we consider everyone, 10,000 passengers using only, no, in this case it's 22 people. If we have 22 people, so we have an electric bus completely full, and if all the people used the electric bus, we had a really very low contribution to CO2 emissions. And if we have all 22 people using a private car, we have this difference. Here we go from 44, which corresponds to 2 electric buses going around the city, and 88, which is 4 electric buses. So with this slight change, we see that we have 2.3 tons of difference in the contribution to CO2. And we are talking about a small difference because that relates in, okay, stop using private cars, start using an electric bus. That takes 22 people and replace 22 cars. Of course, we know that we have shared transportation, but these are the extremes, okay? And if we go from this and we extrapolate from the yearly CO2 emissions in a scenario like I have mentioned, if we have 10,000 passengers, and if all of them in a, of course, great scenario, all of them use electric bus, no private cars, and with only private cars, we have a huge difference. Of course, we were going to be around the middle. This is not a reality, but we know that we have a big difference here that we can try to change. So another thing that we have also been doing is regarding, so let me check the time, regarding route optimization for disabled people. This is an important topic only addressed also in the Sustainable Development Goals, which has to do with equality for disabled people. So we have been working on several solutions inside, within our city, that has to do with help people with visually impaired people, autistic people, deaf, people with mobility difficulties, temporary, and we, in this case, this is a project that has been developed with the City Hall. This is a geographic information system with mapping of our streets according to, this has been done manually in cooperation with institutions of each type of impairments, and we have the classifications of streets, whether they are very bad to excellent here, and this is completely to exclude. This is not translated, this is in Portugal. So we have 5 levels from very bad to excellent, and this is to exclude because some things really need to be excluded in some times. So we have made this project, and then we developed a mobile application that can provide people the best way to get to a certain destination, regarding having in consideration their type of disability. So for example, if we have visually impaired people, there are some things that we need to avoid, like telling them to go to streets where there are emergency vehicles, because they can go out very fast and they of course they cannot react. For example, if we're talking about autistic people, we try to not put them in streets where there are loud noises. And there are several other conditions. This was all information learned from each institution. So we have mapped the entire center of the city, and we have developed an algorithm to provide the best routes for considering some criteria for each impairment. And well, we have made some tests, and we used, this was another work that we have done, the comparison between using the discrete algorithm and the A-star for the route optimization in some scenarios. We have short scenarios, medium, and large routes. And well, what we have concluded, and A-star is having generally a better route to a better performance, is that in general all the works and the results obtained were better with the A-star. Of course, I will not go in detail about these numbers, but we have made an algorithm for getting the best destination, the best times for creating these routes in A star, performed better in all of them. We are making a series of works on this, with several, with choosing an origin and destination, but also choosing several criteria. Okay, I want to go from A to B, but I want a very reduced slope, for example, which is an important criteria. And I want, time is not important for me. Okay, so we are also now developing an algorithm that has some criteria, and the route optimization is based on this criteria. And also we are making another algorithm for allowing the people, each person, to choose several destinations, not only one. Okay, I want to go from A to B and go also to C, D, and E. Okay, and accept this criteria. Time is important to me, or time is not important to me. Slope is important to me or not. Safety is really very important, because sometimes we have to consider here that if the disabled person goes with someone on her side, it can be different, the criteria that are important to them. Okay, so we are working on this. And here you can see an example of a same route from A to B. And in this case, this is green, blue and green, which is excellent. And in this case, this is the faster, but it's not so recommended. Okay, so this takes longer, but it's more adequate. And this is not so good, but faster. Okay, so we are now working on providing them the option to choose which criteria is more important to them in each moment. Okay, so final thing that I would like to present you, and this has to do with different projects that we have in the scope of smart mobility. Another thing that we are doing is having visually impaired people and working on its positioning. And we're doing it with an assistance system using artificial intelligence. The thing and the purpose here is that we have like a smartphone, and then we are capturing landmarks, okay, with the camera of the smartphone, and we're capturing landmarks. This is the camera input. And then what do we do is that we have, this is the phase one. We are obtaining the descriptors, and then in phase two, we are doing the landmark recognition. So the photo comes in this process. There is an image recognition algorithm that makes a comparison with a database that has landmark descriptors, and then there is an output. And the output here is really to return where the person is. One of the main the main problems visually impaired people have is that they lose the orientation of where they are. So providing them with some information like, okay, you are facing the market, or you are facing the bank, or at your right side you have this or that, that is some very important information for visually impaired people. This is a very simple thing, but it's very important. So we address that issue using artificial intelligence and using a smartphone, capturing a landmark and trying to make that recognition. Just an example, we have done some tests with some monuments, and the purpose is that the artificial intelligence algorithm can recognize some images previously trained, and then we integrate the solution with a smartphone. Okay, and we obtained some information that I will not go into this a lot, but what we see is that we have to take into consideration the initially extracted features from each image, because here we have 4,000, and of course when we have this screen here is the maximum. When we have a high resolution image with the maximum extracted features, we have a processing time that goes here to 3 seconds approximately. We will see that these conditions a lot some solutions, so we have a trade-off here. And what we have here is also the accuracy of the recognition. We see that with 1,000 extracted features, we have, okay, from 0.7 to 1, but we have here a very low recognition. It has to do with some particularities of this image in concrete. And then we have 4,000 extracted features. And with this case, we have a big accuracy, okay? But we have some issues with the 4,000 extracted features, like I will tell you. Okay, so in this case, we now made some differences, and we go to 20 meters distance of the landmark. And in the case, we see that the accuracy of detection went a little down, even with 4,000 extracted features. But it's important to notice that there is not a big change, even if we consider 1,000 extracted features when we go from 20 meters distance. This is important because processing a 1,000 extracted features and 4,000 is really very different in terms of processing time. 45% angle. Okay, so accuracy is really not into 1 anymore. We go into medium because we are now testing a scenario of 45% angle, and also with 9 degrees angle, and accuracy really goes down in this scenario. Well, it was kind of expected. Regarding processing times, and this is important because we have connected this artificial intelligence and algorithm to a mobile application, and it is important that we can have reasonable times. So with an image of the 6040 for 480, we had 1.59 seconds to process and to return the result, and in this case a little higher. So this is important for us because, of course, people do not want to wait a lot of time to get this information. And so I would like to end this presentation with something that I will leave in the air for reflection, but because we are living times different that probably none of us thought that we were going to live. COVID is here, is going to here, let's hope not for much longer, but we know we have to deal with it. And this brought, with no doubt, a shift in a lot of things regarding mobility, not only mobility, but also mobility. So one of the things that we have noticed, this is a graph from the beginning of the pandemic situation. And one of the things that we have noticed is really that the mass transit really never got above the baseline, okay? From the start of the pandemic, this is 2020, and until the end of the year. So it never went up. So mass transit was headed in a direction, and mobility as a service was headed in a direction, and I believe the direction will continue, but I believe also some adjustments can be made. So I will finish with this reflection on some things that are opportunities for mobility as a service in the post-pandemic. I will not go a lot deeper on this, but reinforce the core and central idea of mobility as a service. That is an opportunity because there are the central idea of MAS is really probably an opportunity to use here with diverse and heterogeneous means of transportation that probably were not being used, like bicycles, etc. Safer decision making and route planning. Probably this has more importance now in larger cities. Okay, how can I get from A to B with some criteria? Okay, I want just to be and use safety transportation. And for some people, that might represent to avoid mass transit, but there are also other options if you can provide good ways to make a route planning so everyone can decide what is the best criteria for them. The quick adjustment to new economic situations, new business models. We have seen these new opportunities of business models that probably before we didn't think of them. So we saw you were transporting other things other than food, and other business models that came along. Free space reuse, because we have seen that a lot of we have seen cities without cars. So okay, how can we reuse all this free space in some cases? Increase the awareness of other forms of transport. This is very important because we assisted to a mindset shift, because a lot of people in several countries started to use bicycles Some countries already had that as a culture, others not, but this can be seen as an opportunity for mass, because people really considered other types of transportation other than cars, or other than public transportation such as buses. So people started walking by bicycles, and they are good to promote because they do not contribute to CO2 emissions, because they are healthy. So maybe this can be a paradigm of mindset change. And also great availability of data sharing. I think COVID showed one thing, that we need to be united, all of us as people, and also our systems, so they can communicate. And if they communicate, we can make better decisions. And I think COVID showed us that very well. And that is also important for mobility, because if we want to provide a better service, we really need to integrate all sources of information. And so I believe stakeholders will need to cooperate, so we can provide a better answer to the challenges that we have, and the challenges that probably we're going to face, and certainly that we will have to face, so that we can all contribute to a more sustainable transportation. And I believe this is really a very urgent topic, because CO2 emissions is really something we should consider. And I believe that with the joint work, we will able to contribute to a more sustainable transportation network in majority of cities. And okay, so with this, I end my presentation. This is what I have prepared to talk to you today. I hope it has been of use, and that somehow it brought you some important ideas for you to reflect on. So thank you for your attention. And Luigi, please, I will give the word to you now.
Grazie mille Sara, assolutamente hai dato moltissimi spunti, un quadro assolutamente interessante. Avete fatto delle ricerche veramente molto belle nel tuo centro, ti faccio i complimenti per l'altissimo livello delle vostre ricerche. Il tema che tu hai portato alla nostra attenzione, come hai detto, è centrale. Ne parlavamo prima anche con l'altro collega, che anche lui ha portato una lettura in realtà sull'accessibilità, non sulla mobilità, su come intendere l'accessibilità. Ed è un tema centrale per le nostre città del domani, le nostre città del prossimo futuro. È un tema che si porta, come hai sottolineato, porta diverse problematiche che dobbiamo affrontare. Se lo guardiamo in termini di SDGs, sicuramente la sola elettrificazione non sarà sufficiente, perché dobbiamo comunque far sì che che l'elettricità sia prodotta da fonti non inquinanti, non fossili. Se non passiamo quindi a sistemi di energie alternative che producono poi a loro volta l'elettricità per le nostre auto, non risolveremo certamente il problema. E questo è ancora un po' il freno che mi sembra che ci sia. Cioè, siamo molto avanti nella soluzione della macchina elettrica in quanto tale, ma siamo ancora molto indietro sulle infrastrutture e di ricarica, da un lato, e di produzione dell'energia alternativa necessaria per poi alimentare queste auto. C'è un'altra questione che a me ha sempre fatto riflettere, insomma, da quando abbiamo iniziato a parlare di mobilità elettrica. Se ci muoviamo tutti con le auto elettriche e la situazione rimane come quella attuale, cioè i tempi della città sono sempre gli stessi, noi andremo a ricaricare le auto tutti nello stesso momento, cioè avremo un problema di picco di assorbimento energetico. Quindi è probabile che il ragionamento debba essere visto in una complessità maggiore, in cui va unito anche a un'autoproduzione dell'elettricità, in modo tale che quando io arrivo a casa abbia la possibilità di alimentare la mia auto con energia che ho prodotto e ho immagazzinato durante il giorno, evitando così il picco di assorbimento che graverebbe sulla rete generale.
Yeah.
Io ricordo quando ci sono state delle estati particolarmente calde e tutti usavano i condizionatori, il problema dell'assorbimento generale che questo ha provocato. Questo solo per dire
Yeah.
gli effetti collegati, ma tu li hai ben rappresentati. Mi sono piaciute moltissimo le soluzioni per le fasce più deboli, perché noi effettivamente continuiamo a pensare sempre alla mobilità, ai nuovi trend, quindi abbiamo le auto a guida autonoma, abbiamo l'idrogeno, tutte queste cose bellissime, e ci dimentichiamo invece che abbiamo una
Yeah.
fascia di popolazione che ha un problema di mobilità e di accessibilità alla città, e quei progetti che hai fatto vedere sono dei progetti bellissimi che rendono possibile per queste persone vivere e muoversi nella città con una modalità migliore, con una vita, quindi un livello di vita migliore. Allora, usare le tecnologie per questo credo che sia veramente il nostro obiettivo finale, e quindi il lavoro che voi state portando avanti a me piace moltissimo, perché va proprio nella direzione di una città sostenibile a 360 gradi, cioè sostenibile socialmente, oltre che ambientalmente ed economicamente. Non possiamo lasciare indietro pezzi di popolazione, sarebbe assurdo. In realtà anche la guida autonoma
Yeah.
può rispondere
Totally.
a questa problematica, perché una persona non vedente, nel momento in cui la guida autonoma sarà sviluppata completamente, potrà muoversi in macchina semplicemente dicendo dove vuole andare. E
Yeah.
quindi anche questo, noi non pensiamo che possa risolvere dei problemi sociali. Magari qualcuno dice: ma la guida autonoma è solo per i pigri che non vogliono guidare, e si mettono lì come
Yeah.
nell'immagine.
Definitely.
Invece li stiamo come la domotica molti la vedono come una soluzione per il ricco, per la persona comoda che non vuole alzarsi dal divano per accendere la luce, ma non pensa che invece è una soluzione per rendere più efficiente energeticamente un'abitazione. Cioè, dobbiamo vedere queste tecnologie, queste soluzioni nella loro capacità di risolvere problemi, non di essere un lusso per alcuni, non sono un lusso, sono un qualcosa che risolve invece problemi sociali importanti. Ed è questa chiave di lettura che a me piace della tua lezione, di quello che ci hai raccontato. Come una smart mobility è un qualcosa che dovrebbe essere interpretato per migliorare la vita delle persone, non come un lusso tecnologico.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you, Luigi. I totally agree. I really agree with your statements that sometimes we forget some things that should be fundamental, and that we should be present in everything and in those solutions that we think. I'm glad that this ideas made sense, and hope also for all participants that are listening that these ideas somehow make sense. And I don't know if there are some questions or some interaction with participants. I don't know how you have been conducting this.
Sì, se ci sono domande, purtroppo io non le vedo direttamente, però se la regia me le segnala.
Nessuna mano alzata.
Okay, very well. Okay.
Al momento non ci sono domande.
Ok.
Se ti invito, se avessi modo e tempo, a partecipare al nostro laboratorio che c'è questo pomeriggio. Dovrebbe esserti anche arrivato il link su Zoom dalla segreteria della scuola. Se avessi tempo saremmo molto felici di averti con noi, anche quello che potrai dedicare, insomma, a questo
It's in the yes, it's in the labs. Okay, it's in just it's I don't know what time is there. It's like in 2 hours and 45 minutes. Is that it? Starting the labs?
Oggi iniziamo abbastanza tutto il pomeriggio oggi. Poi ci sarà domani tutto il giorno.
Oh, ok.
E anche domenica mattina.
Ok.
Se hai modo, chiaramente rispetto ai tuoi impegni,
Ok.
molto piacere.
Ok. Thank you, Luigi.
Quando
Thank you, Luigi.
Quando vuoi, senza neanche avvisare, entri nella riunione di Zoom senza problemi.
Ok. Of course I will.
Okay. Ti ringrazio moltissimo davvero per la tua lezione, che è stata per me molto, mi ha veramente stimolato, mi ha dato un sacco di spunti di riflessione. Quindi ringrazio tutti. Di fatto
Yes.
tu hai
Okay.
concluso i nostri webinar, perché con te i webinar della scuola
Ok.
finiscono. Invito anche alla conferenza
Ok.
domenica pomeriggio, ti ricordo se vorrai esserci.
Ok.
E grazie davvero ancora per quanto ci hai dato.
Okay. Thank you, Luigi. Thank you for the invitation, and it will be a pleasure for us to continue this collaboration. Okay, get to know a little more of what you also do, and it will be a
Assolutamente sì.
pleasure. Okay. So very well.
Perfetto.
Thank you.
Grazie
Thank
ancora.
you. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for the invitation.
Grazie e buona serata. Per i partecipanti il laboratorio è aperto praticamente da subito, quindi spostatevi pure sul laboratorio. E per gli altri guardate tutti i webinar su YouTube. Grazie a tutti.